Hey folks, here at osvtxreviews.com. In this video, we're discussing whether or not dual screen designs, or more specifically, dual touchscreen designs, are practical in the world of technology. Today we have three pretty similar products, but they have very different portfolios and sizes. The first is a laptop. It's a 14-inch, pretty traditional laptop, the Acer Iconia 6120, except of course it has two 14-inch touchscreen displays that you can type and touch on, so they kind of resemble two tablets being merged together. A similar product to the Acer Iconia 6120 would be the Toshiba Liberato, which has two dual 7-inch touchscreen displays, very similar to the Acer Iconia 6120. Now, the next one here is the Entourage Edge. It's kind of interesting as well because it has two touchscreen displays. One is a touchscreen ebook reader, one is a touchscreen Android tablet. So efficiently, we have one 7-inch display and one 6-inch display. So it's about the same size as a Toshiba Liberato in that same kind of mid-end, kind of netbook-like size and form factor. Now, the third product here is the Kyocera Echo. It has two touchscreen displays, but it's a cell phone form factor, and each of these displays measures 3.5 inches diagonally, so it comes together to create a semi-phablet that's very squarish and a little bit awkward, but it is about 5.5 inches diagonally, so it is a pretty large screen when fully opened. So essentially we have, again, three devices that all have that dual touchscreen form factor, but we're just going to discuss kind of which one is kind of the best and whether or not it's practical or not. I think that dual touchscreen displays definitely has a place. It looks like it's something that's come out of the page of a science fiction novel or something, but I think it's most practical in smaller products. Perhaps smaller tablets, smaller phones like the Kyocera Echo, because of the smaller size screen really comes into handy, and the smaller portfolio makes the device a lot easier to carry around and put into your pocket. And afterwards, having the capability to expand out to a larger screen has a lot more potential because you can carry around a cell phone, and all of a sudden it also becomes your fully functioning tablet, and also allows you to multitask and use a larger keyboard layout if that is what you desire. However, on something like a laptop, I think that this practicality factor dies down a lot more. When placed and stacked next to the Acer Iconia 6120, it's difficult to convince users out there what the need for a secondary screen is. Even though it's cool, even though it makes for a pretty decent keyboard, it's still not as good as a physical keyboard, like on a true QWERTY layout. And also, even though it's nice to have a second monitor to multitask and to have more of an extended view when you're web browsing, it's still not the most convenient layout. Kind of watching something down here and also up here, it's not as comfortable as having two monitors side by side. And so that's when I think that on larger devices like a true laptop, having a dual touchscreen display system isn't really practical and doesn't convey as much functionality over kind of more fashion and form. Whereas on a mid-sized product, such as the Entourage Edge or the Toshiba Liberato, it makes a little bit more sense. Not as much sense as a smaller device, but it still makes some sense in the degree that you can have a web browsing experience and also a secondary display here to interact with. On the Edge, perhaps it makes the most sense out of all because you have two different functions stacked into one, both an e-reader and a tablet. But even if both of these screens were just traditional LCDs, just like a extended monitor, it would still make a lot of sense because, again, you can carry something around and you can multitask pretty easily. A downside to something like a netbook here is that it is pretty bulky. It's a lot heavier than your traditional netbook is going to be. Because instead of plastic keys, there has to be another LCD screen, which is, again, quite hefty, as all these products are. Whatever way you look at it, the Entourage Edge as an ebook reader, the Kyocera Echo as a smartphone, or the Iconia 6120 as a laptop are all respectively heavier than the similar products in their categories as laptops, cell phones, and ebook readers, just because they have a more fancier kind of system and their fancier designs and a larger screen and a secondary screen, which makes the weight a lot heavier. That said, I do think that this has a place, like the Toshiba Liberato. It makes for a pretty interesting twist, and on a netbook size, I still think that it's fathomable and makes a certain degree of sense. So overall, as it comes down to it, I would say that dual touchscreen displays do have a bit of sense if you are carrying a smaller form factor. I think the technology still has a bit to go before they truly are ripe for consumers to pick out, because at the moment we still have this pretty large gap between screens, and this kind of is the part of the greatest concern for a lot of editors and consumers out there. People who've reviewed the Kyocera Edge kind of critique this line and said that that's the reason why this phone fails. I still applaud Kyocera for their attempt and their pretty interesting concept, however. So overall, I would say that dual touchscreen laptops, kind of far-stretched, but smaller form factors, 2 displays are and might be better than just one. So thanks for watching this video here at os&btxreviews.com. This has been a brief video overlook at whether or not 2 displays are better than one on various different sizes and technologies and devices. Thanks for watching. Also, thanks to our brother site at OS Tech News.